Part 8. The gentle clinking of glassware caught your attention, pulling you from your swirling thoughts. You turned to see a waiter approaching, holding a silver tray with a single red rose and a neatly folded cream-colored envelope. "Miss YN," the waiter said with a soft smile, offering the tray. You hesitated for a second before taking the rose and the envelope, your fingers trembling slightly. The scent of the rose was sweet, and the envelope felt heavy with meaning as you carefully unfolded the note. The first note. "You've caught me, haven't you? You're probably wondering where I've gone. Don't worry, I haven't left you alone for long. This night is just beginning, little kitty. But here's the catch: you'll have to find me. Follow the roses and the notes, and piece together the words I've been too much of a coward to say out loud. Let's see if you can find me. Tay." Your heart skipped a beat as you read the elegant handwriting, the edges of the note slightly smudged as if he had hesitated while writing it. A soft smile played on your lips as you glanced around, noticing another rose resting on a nearby table. With cautious excitement bubbling in your chest, you followed the trail. The second rose rested elegantly on a polished wooden side table in the corner of the lounge, its deep crimson petals glowing under the soft, ambient light. Your breath hitched as you approached it, the golden ribbon on the accompanying cream envelope catching the light like a beacon. You reached for it with trembling fingers, the silkiness of the ribbon brushing against your skin as you untied it carefully. Sliding the card free, you unfolded it slowly, as though the words inside might leap off the page. The second note. "Have you noticed, little kitty, how you managed to pull my attention without even trying? Your voice, soft yet commanding. Your laughter, it echoes in my chest long after you've stopped. Your smile, oh, that smile. It's dangerous, you know. If I'm being honest, every time you walk into a room, the world blurs, and you're all I can see. Follow the next rose, and you'll find another secret waiting for you. Tay." Your heart raced as your eyes lingered on the note, the elegant script carrying a weight that felt almost tangible. Your cheeks heated as you reread the note, your fingers gripping the edges tightly. Was this really happening? Could the ever-composed Tay, the man who seemed untouchable, truly be revealing his feelings for you through these notes? Tucking the note back into the envelope, you picked up the rose, its petals soft and velvety under your touch. You glanced around the room, your eyes scanning for the next clue. Nestled in a cozy corner near a cushioned bench, the third rose waited. Its crimson petals seemed to shimmer in the soft light, and beside it lay another cream-colored envelope. You approached slowly, your heartbeat quickening with every step. The cool breeze tousled your hair as you reached for the rose, the delicate stem soft against your fingers. The envelope, tied with a simple black ribbon, felt weighty in your hands. With deliberate care, you slid the ribbon off and unfolded the note. The handwriting, familiar and elegant, brought a lump to your throat before you even began reading. The third note. "Sometimes, when I'm alone in my office, I catch myself thinking about you. How your hair catches the light in the afternoon sun. How your brows furrow when you're focused on a design. How your lips curve into that little smirk when you're about to tease me back. I miss you even when you're just across the hall. And that's terrifying, isn't it? But, little kitty, I've stopped fighting it. On to the next note, my muse. Tay." Your chest tightened as you reread the words, your fingers trembling slightly as you held the note. Each line painted a vivid picture in your mind, moments you hadn't even realized he'd noticed. Your heart ached at the raw honesty of his confession. It felt like he was standing right beside you, whispering the words directly into your ear. You pressed the note to your chest, staring out at the skyline as the words settled over you. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was this really happening? Near the entrance, resting on a small wrought iron table, was the fourth rose. Its rich crimson hue stood out starkly against the white tablecloth, and beside it lay another cream-colored envelope. You approached slowly, your fingers brushing against the velvety petals of the rose, before picking up the envelope. It was tied with a dark green ribbon this time, the contrast against the cream paper as striking as the emotion stirring inside you. Your hands trembled slightly as you untied the ribbon, the knot slipping free with ease. Carefully, you unfolded the note, the elegant handwriting immediately drawing your eyes to the words that followed. The fourth note. Do you know what drives me insane, little kitty? Seeing you smile at someone else. Hearing someone else make you laugh. Watching someone else get your attention. I know it's selfish. I know I shouldn't feel this way. But the truth is, I do. I feel it deep in my chest, like a knot I can't untie. I've wanted to say this for so long, but I've been scared. Scared of losing you. But tonight, no more hiding. Find the next rose, and we'll continue. Tay. Your breath caught in your throat as the words sank in. Tay, Mr. V, is jealous. The realization sent a rush of warmth through you, your cheeks burning as you reread the note. Each line felt heavier than the last, laced with a vulnerability you hadn't expected from someone like him. Tay, who always seemed so composed, so untouchable, was admitting to feelings that had clearly haunted him for some time. How long has he felt this way? The thought brought both a strange shyness and an undeniable sense of affection. With a deep breath, you folded the note carefully, tucking it into its envelope before picking up the rose. The soft petals brushed against your cheek as you stared out at the terrace, the fairy lights casting a golden glow over the path ahead. The next rose was somewhere out there, waiting for you. And with it, more of Tay's secrets. Your steps were slow at first, each one heavy with the emotion swirling inside you. But as the scent of the rose filled the air, your pace quickened, anticipation bubbling in your chest once more. Your internal conflict. A part of you was still processing the enormity of Tay's confession. The man who had always seemed so in control, so guarded, was laying himself bare before you, one note at a time. What do I feel for him? The question lingered as you rounded the corner, the glow of the next rose catching your eye. The soft trickle of water reached your ears before you saw the fountain. Hidden in a quiet corner of the terrace garden, its gentle rhythm seemed to echo the beating of your heart. The delicate sound blended with the cool evening air, creating a serene backdrop for the next step in Tay's unfolding confession. There, beside the stone fountain adorned with blooming flowers, was another rose. Its crimson petals glowed faintly under the warm fairy lights that lined the path. You approached it slowly, your pulse quickening with each step. The cream-colored envelope tucked beside the rose was impossible to miss. This one was tied with a deep blue ribbon, its color a stark yet soothing contrast to the rich red of the flower. Your hands trembled slightly as you untied the ribbon, the silk sliding through your fingers with ease. You unfolded the card carefully, the weight of Tay's words pressing down on you even before your eyes took in the first line. The fifth note. Do you know what happiness feels like, little kitty? It's when I see you walking toward me with that determined look in your eyes. It's when you laugh at my stupid jokes, even when they're not funny. It's when you trust me enough to show me your vulnerable side. Happiness is simple, yet it feels so rare. But you brought it into my life effortlessly. Keep going, my muse. We're almost there. Tay. You clutched the note tighter. Tay wasn't just confessing his feelings, he was sharing a piece of himself you hadn't seen before. You tucked the note carefully into its envelope, holding it close to your heart as you turned toward the path ahead. On the bench lay the sixth rose, its deep crimson hue almost glowing against the pale stone. Beside it was another cream-colored envelope, tied this time with a soft silver ribbon that gleamed faintly under the warm glow of nearby lanterns. You paused, taking in the tranquil scene before stepping closer. Your heart thudded loudly in your chest as you picked up the rose and envelope, the weight of Tay's previous notes still fresh in your mind. The silver ribbon slipped free easily as you tugged at it, and you carefully unfolded the card within. Tay's familiar handwriting filled the page, but this time, the strokes felt heavier somehow, as if each word carried a deeper weight. The sixth note. There's something I need to admit, little kitty. I'm scared. Scared of this world I live in. Scared of the shadows that follow me. But most of all, I'm scared of what might happen to you, because of me. but despite the fear, I can't let you go. I don't want to let you go. Please, keep following the trail. Tay. The words blurred as tears filled your eyes, your hand trembling as you held the note. You bit your lip, trying to steady yourself, but the raw vulnerability in Tay's confession made it impossible to contain your emotions. Tay is scared. The man you had always seen as fearless, unwavering, and in control was admitting to his deepest fears rooted in the life he led and the dangers that surrounded him. But even more than that, he was scared for you. Your hands tightened around the note as a tear slipped down your cheek. You wiped away another tear, taking a deep breath to steady yourself. If Tay was willing to face his fears and the dangers of his world to let you in, then you owed it to him to meet him halfway. The pathway leading toward the beach stretched before you, framed by arching branches adorned with glowing fairy lights. The scent of saltwater lingered in the crisp night air, blending with the faint fragrance of roses scattered along the edges of the stone path. Your heels clicked softly against the stones as you walked forward, clutching the sixth note and its rose close to your chest. The faint sound of waves crashing against the shore echoed in the distance, a rhythmic lullaby carrying secrets and promises with each surge. And then, you saw it, a small table placed delicately in the center of the path. On it sat another cream-colored envelope and a single crimson rose. The flickering light from the lantern beside it painted golden streaks across the envelope's surface. Your breath caught in your throat as you reached out with trembling fingers, carefully picking up the seventh note. The rose felt heavier this time, as if it carried the weight of something monumental, something life-changing. Slowly, you unfolded the paper and began to read. The seventh note. Little kitty. I love you. There. I said it. It's messy, it's overwhelming, and it's terrifying. But it's real. And it's yours. My heart is yours, and it has been for a long time. You've become the brightest light in the darkest corners of my world. You're the calm to my storm, the reason I feel warmth even in my coldest moments. I've tried to fight it. I've tried to convince myself that I shouldn't feel this way, that loving you is dangerous, selfish, and unfair. But love doesn't care about logic or reason. It doesn't care about fear or consequences. It just exists. So here I am, standing in front of you in every way I can, handing you my heart on paper because I don't know how else to say it. My heart is yours, and it always will be. Come find me. I'm waiting for you. Your Tay. The note trembled in your hands as your eyes traced over each word again and again. I love you. 3 words, so simple, yet carrying the weight of everything. Every glance, every stolen moment, every lingering touch now made perfect sense. Your chest felt tight, and your breathing grew uneven as your mind tried to process the enormity of his confession. This wasn't just flirtation. This wasn't just playful teasing or a fleeting infatuation. Tay loves me. The realization struck you with such intensity that your knees almost buckled. A tear slipped down your cheek, followed by another. And yet, amidst the overwhelming emotion, a smile broke through, a soft, trembling smile as you pressed the note against your chest and closed your eyes. You could almost hear his voice whispering those words into your ear. My heart is yours. With the rose and note clutched tightly in your hands, you took a deep breath and began walking forward again. The stone path gradually transitioned into soft sand, the grains cool against your heels as you approached the edge of the beach. The sound of the waves grew louder, their calming rhythm setting the pace of your racing heart. As you walked, the world around you seemed to transform. Fairy lights hung from wooden poles driven into the sand, their golden glow reflecting off the surface of the water. Petals, hundreds, no, thousands of red and white rose petals, were scattered across the sand, creating a path that led you closer to the water's edge. And then you saw him. At the end of the petal-strewn path sat him. Tay. He was perched on a simple wooden stool, a guitar resting gently in his lap. A soft breeze tousled his dark hair as he gazed out toward the ocean, his silhouette illuminated by the soft glow of lanterns placed in a circle around him. He was wearing a tailored black suit, the jacket unbuttoned slightly to reveal the smooth lines of his dress shirt. The moonlight kissed his sharp jawline, casting delicate shadows over his flawless features. For a brief moment, he looked so at peace, so heartbreakingly beautiful, that you couldn't breathe. As if sensing your presence, Tay lifted his head and turned to look at you. Your eyes locked. And the world stopped. Time itself seemed to fold in on this single moment, where nothing existed except the two of you. His lips parted slightly as he took you in, your figure framed by the soft glow of the lights, the rose still clutched in your hand, your eyes wide and glistening with emotion. And for just a second, you saw it, the vulnerability in his gaze, the way his throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. You could tell he was nervous. But beneath the nerves, there was something else, something pure and unwavering. Love. Your steps slowed as you approached him, your heart thundering so loudly in your chest that you wondered if he could hear it. Your eyes remained locked with his, neither of you willing to break the connection. As you closed the distance, Tay's fingers tightened around the neck of the guitar, his knuckles going pale. For a moment, neither of you spoke. The waves crashed gently in the background, the fairy lights twinkled like distant stars, and the scent of roses filled the night air. And then, finally, Tay spoke, his voice soft and steady. You came. The words were simple, but the emotion behind them was profound. You nodded, your voice caught somewhere in your throat as you whispered back. Of course I did. For a fleeting moment, a small smile curved at the corner of his lips before his gaze flickered downward, his long lashes casting shadows on his cheeks. His Adam's apple bobbed as he exhaled slowly. Before I say anything else, will you sit with me for a moment? You nodded again, and he gestured to a small wooden bench set front of him. As you sat down, Tay adjusted the guitar in his lap, his fingers brushing lightly over the strings as he looked at you once more. His dark eyes, filled with countless emotions, fear, hope, love, held yours captive. I have something to play for you. And with those words, he strummed the first note on his guitar. The first notes of the song drifted into the night air, soft, tender, and achingly beautiful. The melody wrapped around you like a warm embrace, pulling you deeper into this intimate moment. And then, he began to sing. His voice. Oh, his voice. It was unlike anything you had ever heard before, deep, rich, and husky, with a raw magnetism that seemed to seep into your very soul. Each word he sang carried an unspoken emotion, wrapping around your heart and squeezing it tightly. His tone held a fragility that contrasted with his usual confident demeanor, and yet, there was a steady strength woven through every note, every lyric. His voice wasn't just singing a song, it was telling a story. Your story. Every word seemed to be crafted just for you, every line confessing the emotions he had been holding back for so long. Your eyes welled with tears as you watched him, his brows furrowed in concentration, his lips forming each word with precision and care. The vulnerability he displayed was almost too much to bear. This was Kim Tae-young, your boss, your protector, the man who always carried himself with unwavering confidence, bearing his soul to you through music. As the song continued, your world narrowed until it was just him, the man sitting in front of you, pouring his heart out in a melody that would be etched into your soul forever. His husky voice resonated deep within you, reverberating through your chest and leaving a lingering ache in its wake. You realized that you weren't just admiring his voice, you were falling. Falling deeper into the spell he had unknowingly cast on you from the very beginning. With every note, every lyric, you felt your walls crumble. And by the time the final chords faded into the night air, leaving behind a profound silence broken only by the distant sound of waves, you knew one thing with absolute certainty. You loved him. Tay's head remained bowed, his dark hair falling over his eyes as his fingers lingered on the guitar strings. His chest rose and fell slowly, as though he were trying to calm the storm of emotions within him. You sat frozen on the bench beside him, your hands trembling as they clutched the crimson rose he had given you with the seventh note. Your heart was racing loud and relentless as if it were trying to escape your chest. What now, you thought? The silence stretched on, thick with anticipation and unsaid words. Finally, Tay took a deep breath and lifted his head, turning slightly to face you. His dark eyes, glistening under the soft glow of the fairy lights, met yours. For a brief moment, he looked vulnerable, almost fragile, despite his usual composed and intimidating presence. And then, in a voice low and husky, he spoke. "YN." He began, his voice barely above a whisper. Your breath hitched as he said your name. I don't know how to say this perfectly. I've been thinking about this moment for so long, and now that it's here, words don't seem enough. He let out a shaky breath, his gaze briefly flickering to the ocean before returning to you. But I'm going to try anyway, because you deserve the truth. You deserve everything. I meant every word in that song. Every note, every line, it's all for you. Your breath caught in your throat as he stood, taking slow, deliberate steps toward you. I love you. Your eyes widened, and your lips parted slightly as the words hit you. I can't hold it back anymore, he continued, his gaze locking onto yours. I'm in love with you. I have been for a long time. I love you in a way that terrifies me. In a way that makes me want to be better, to do better, just so I can be someone worthy of you. He stopped just a step away from you, his tall frame towering yet unthreatening, his presence warm and steady. His voice wavered slightly, and you could tell this confession was taking everything out of him. I'm not a perfect man, YN. I have flaws, shadows, and responsibilities that might scare you away. But if you'll let me, if you'll trust me, I want to be yours. He paused, his Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed nervously. I don't want to hide it, and I don't want to just write it down in notes, he said, his voice dropping even lower, sending a shiver through you. I want to say it out loud, I want to be your boyfriend. YN, your lover. And your life partner. The words hung in the air between you, heavy with meaning. Your breath caught in your throat, and for a moment, all you could do was stare at him. His usually confident demeanor was nowhere to be seen. Instead, he looked vulnerable, raw and open, as if he'd placed his entire heart in your hands and was waiting for your response. Tay, you started, your voice barely a whisper. I don't know if I'm ready for this. He took a step closer, his hand reaching out but stopping just short of touching you, giving you space. I know this might be sudden, and I know you might need time, he said gently. But I had to tell you. You shook your head, struggling to find the right words. It's not you, Tay. It's me. My past. Tay's brows furrowed, his concern evident. Your past? You took a deep breath, summoning the courage to speak. There's something you don't know about me. Something I've been carrying for a while. His brows furrowed slightly, concern flickering across his face. What is it? You looked down at the rose still clutched in your hand, the soft petals grounding you as you began. My last relationship, you said, your voice trembling. It ended badly. He stayed silent, his gaze steady and patient, encouraging you to continue. My ex-boyfriend, you said, your voice barely above a whisper, cheated on me. With my classmate. I found out on graduation day. I thought I was happy, that everything was perfect, and then. Tay's jaw tightened, his eyes darkening with a mix of anger and hurt, not at you, but at the thought of someone betraying you so cruelly. Your voice cracked, and you paused, swallowing hard. I found them together. It shattered me, you admitted, your voice quieter now. Since then, I've been scared to trust anyone, scared of being hurt like that again. Silence filled the space between you for a moment, but when you dared to look up, Tay's expression wasn't one of pity, it was one of quiet fury and heartbreak. I thought I'd moved on, you admitted, tears threatening to fall. But it still haunts me sometimes. I'm scared of trusting someone again, only to be hurt. As your words hung in the air, Tay's expression softened, and a distant look entered his eyes. Graduation day, he murmured, almost to himself. That was the first time I saw you. You blinked in surprise. What? His lips pressed into a thin line before he continued. The day we met at the university. You were on the stairs, crying, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know why you were upset, but... He hesitated, his hands clenching slightly at his sides. I've thought about that moment so many times since. How I wanted to say something, to help, but I didn't. And now, knowing what happened. His jaw tightened briefly, before he let out a shaky breath. It makes me furious. Not just at him, but at myself for not doing more back then. I can't change the past, YN, he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. But I can promise you this, I will never betray you. Not now, not ever. His dark eyes bore into yours, unflinching. I don't care about the shadows in my life or the risks that come with being with me. You're the light in all of it, and I will do everything to protect you, to keep you safe. But more than that, I'll never hurt you. You have my word. I know it's hard to trust again, he continued, but I promise you, YN, I'll never give you a reason to doubt me. I'll be honest with you, I'll be there for you, and I'll do everything I can to make you feel safe and loved. His voice cracked slightly as he added, because you mean everything to me. His words hit you like a tidal wave, crashing through every wall you'd built around your heart. For the first time in months, the weight of your fear began to lift, replaced by something new, hope. Before you could respond, Tay suddenly took a deep breath and dropped down onto one knee. Your heart skipped a beat as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, the soft fabric catching the light as he held it carefully in his hands. Your breath hitched as he opened the box, revealing a luxurious ring that took your breath away. At its center was a stunning, large, round-cut diamond in a prong setting, its brilliance catching every flicker of light. The eternity band was adorned with perfectly matched round-cut stones, creating an unbroken circle of dazzling brilliance. Intricate paved detailing added an artistic touch, while the white metal finish gave the ring a timeless elegance and bold, glamorous appeal. It was utterly perfect, just like the man kneeling before you. Tay's lips curved into a soft smile as he looked up at you, his dark eyes vulnerable yet steady. YN, he began, his voice low and thick with emotion, I've been waiting for this moment. He took a deep breath, as though steadying himself, before continuing. I've been planning this for weeks, maybe even longer. The notes, the roses, this night. I wanted it to be perfect for you. Because you deserve nothing less. Your chest tightened at his words, the weight of his intentions making your heart flutter. I knew from the moment I met you that you were special, he admitted, his voice soft yet unwavering. And as I got to know you, that feeling only grew stronger. I wanted to find the right time, the right way, to tell you how much you mean to me. He paused, his fingers brushing lightly over the edge of the box. But when I saw you tonight, standing there under the lights, I realized I couldn't wait any longer. I didn't want to wait for another perfect moment because this one, right here, right now, is already perfect. His gaze softened as he held the box out toward you, the brilliance of the ring reflecting the sincerity in his eyes. YN, he said, his voice trembling slightly but filled with conviction, this ring isn't about rushing things or skipping steps. It's not about marriage, at least, not yet. He smiled, a nervous yet genuine curve of his lips. This ring is a promise. A promise that I'll always be honest with you, that I'll always protect you, and that I'll never take your trust for granted. It's a symbol of how much you mean to me, and how much I want to build something real with you. His voice softened, almost a whisper, as he added, I love you, YN. More than I've ever loved anyone. And I want to spend every day showing you just how much. Time seemed to stand still as you stared at the man kneeling before you. His words, his sincerity, the vulnerability in his eyes, it was almost too much to process. The luxurious ring sparkled brilliantly in the light, but it was nothing compared to the raw emotion in his expression. For a moment, all you could do was stare at him, overwhelmed by the depth of his emotions. Then, Tay, you murmured, your voice trembling with the weight of your emotions. Tears pricked at the corners of your eyes as you realized the depth of his feelings and the care he had poured into every moment of this night. Slowly, you nodded, your voice shaking as you whispered, okay. His breath hitched slightly, his eyes widening. Okay? You nodded, a small, shy smile tugging at your lips. Yes. I'll give us, a chance. Relief flooded his expression, and his lips curved into a smile so genuine it took your breath away. His hands were steady as he took the ring from the box and gently slid it onto your finger. The cool metal felt grounding, the ring's weight symbolic of the promise he had just made. It's beautiful, you whispered, staring down at the intricate design, your voice trembling with emotion. It's yours, Tay replied softly, standing to his full height and pulling you into a tender embrace. And so am I. His arms wrapped around you securely, holding you as though he never wanted to let go. As the tension in the air eased, you found yourself glancing at the guitar he had set aside. The memory of his song returned, and a new wave of emotion washed over you. But before the moment could settle, you blurted out, Tay, how can you sing like that? He blinked, clearly caught off guard. What? Your voice, you said, your words rushing out. It's magnetic. You're so good. Like, ridiculously good. His lips curved into a slow, teasing smile. Are you complimenting me, little kitty? You groaned, hiding your face behind your hands. I'm serious, Tay. You never told me you could sing like that. He laughed softly, pulling your hands gently away from your face. I didn't think it was important, he said, his tone playful. Not important, you repeated, incredulous. Tay, your voice could melt hearts. It's unfair, honestly. His laughter deepened, a sound so warm and genuine it made your chest ache. Well, he said, his voice dropping to that familiar husky tone, if it melted your heart, I'd say it was worth it. You shook your head in disbelief, a soft laugh escaping your lips. You're full of surprises, Mr. Kim. Tay, he corrected, his smirk returning. Boyfriends don't go by their last names, you know. The word boyfriend sent a flutter through your chest, and you looked away shyly, your cheeks burning. As Tay pulled you again into a gentle embrace, his arms wrapped securely around you, you felt a sense of peace you hadn't known in years. The fear and pain of the past still lingered, but for the first time, they felt manageable, because you weren't facing them alone. Thank you, you whispered against his chest. For what? He asked, his voice soft. For waiting. For not giving up on me, you replied, your voice thick with emotion. Tay pressed a kiss to the top of your head, his voice husky as he murmured, I'll wait as long as you need, little kitty. I'm not going anywhere. The air between you both softened, the tension giving way to a warm and comfortable silence. Tay's arms remained loosely around you, his gaze filled with a mix of contentment and relief. For a moment, you simply basked in the intimacy of his confession, your heart still fluttering from the weight of his words and the promise of something new. But then, a thought crossed your mind, and a mischievous smile tugged at the corners of your lips. So, you began, your tone light but teasing as you pulled back slightly to look at him. A business event, huh? Tay froze. His smile faltered, and his dark eyes widened slightly, a faint blush creeping up his neck. Well. I mean, he stammered, his usually confident demeanor slipping as he rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. You crossed your arms, your expression one of mock sternness. Let me get this straight. You made Jean give me a dress, spun an entire story about a business event, and had me thinking I was walking into some corporate gala, and let me walk in here thinking I was about to meet investors. As the realization dawned on him that he'd been thoroughly caught, Tay groaned softly, covering his face with his hands. Okay, he mumbled from behind his palms. You caught me. But can you blame me? His muffled voice was tinged with both amusement and defeat, and you couldn't help but laugh, the sound light and genuine. I panicked, all right, he said, lifting his head and fixing you with a slightly exasperated look. I had this whole trail planned out, and I kept thinking, what if she doesn't show up? You tilted your head, the teasing glint in your eyes softening slightly. So, you figured a fake business event would do the trick? Can you blame me? He replied, his tone shifting to one of playful exasperation. I was terrified you'd say no. Well, you said, your voice tinged with amusement. For the record, this was the best business event I've ever been to. Tay's grin returned in full force, his dark eyes sparkling with a mixture of relief and adoration. Oh, really? Really, you replied with a soft laugh, shaking your head at the absurdity of the situation. Although, next time, you could just ask me, instead of roping poor Jean into your schemes. His grin returned, this time wider and more genuine than before. The mischievous glint in his eyes matched her own as he leaned closer, his voice dropping to a soft, husky murmur. Good, he said, reaching out to tuck a stray strand of hair behind your ear. His fingers lingered just a moment too long, sending a pleasant shiver down your spine. Because I'm never letting you go, little kitty. In next part. Hyung, do we have more? Both you and Tay turned just in time to see JK shuffling into the kitchen, his hair messy from sleep, his oversized t-shirt hanging loosely over his sweatpants. His eyes were half-lidded, still lost in the fog of sleep, until they landed on the sight before him. For a full 5 seconds, JK just stood there, completely still, his brain clearly struggling to process what he was seeing. Then, suddenly, he blinked rapidly, rubbing his eyes aggressively as if trying to clear his vision. Wait, he mumbled, his voice hoarse from sleep. Am I dreaming? JK's jaw dropped. His eyes widened, his sleepiness disappearing in an instant. What the hell?
Hey, dear Army, this is my dear diary. We're always looking to share more stories and novels. If you like our video, please subscribe to our channel. Your likes, comments, and subscriptions are my biggest motivation. More exciting and interesting novels updated every day. Thank you.